Yo, what's going on YouTube? It's your boy Harrison here with another tutorial video. I'm just jumping off from the last one that I did. I didn't want to condense into this super long video. So in this tutorial, I'm just going to show you guys how to track out your songs, kind of keep everything together and in the best way possible, especially, you know, if you're like me, you want to keep everything organized. That way, if you're selling an instrumental or whatever you're doing, it's easiest just to grab everything. Or if you like to mix into another DAW like Pro Tools, this is probably the easiest way that I found to do it. It's a big reason why I love Ableton, because back when I used to have to export tracks from Pro Tools, it was a huge pain in the ass. You used to have to just sit there and listen to it bounce and everything out. And if you don't know what bounce is, it just means it pretty much just plays from start to finish the whole track. Ableton's got a nice little feature where it just kind of speeds through everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump into that. First of all, when you're organizing everything, this song that I have right here is one that I was working on before. So if you're like me, what you're gonna want to do is create a folder of some type where you keep everything. You know, I have a nice little Ableton Lives beat, and anything that's, you know, black for me is something that I'm still working on. As you can tell, I got a lot of things that I'm working on. Anything that's in an actual folder is something that's already completed. And what I do is I like to track everything out, bounce each individual track into one folder that I call tracks, and then I put a wave MP3 track. And pretty much what that is going to be is I'll bounce a wave, I'll convert it into an MP3. That way, if I want to just hear, you know, what song it is, I don't want to actually open up my Ableton session, you know, I can just double click and, you know, it's going to play.
This is a D's production.
That's the track that I was working on. I'll go back into it. Another thing that I like to do is I like to put the info. It's totally on your preference. I just, you know, put the BPM in here. I don't really do much. That way, if I'm selling it, I know it's going to go into another studio. Somebody's going to be using it to record. You know, 9 times out of 10, they're going to want to know the BPM. That way, it's easier to work with. So to start out, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a folder on the desktop. I already have this song bounced out and everything like that. So I'll click back up top. The song is called Love These Hoes. I'm horrible at naming tracks. But these hoes. Bam. Hoses. Hold up. Stop. Rename. So I already have everything up in here, but I'm just doing this to show you guys. So I have my folder. After I usually take the Ableton session, let me find it real quick. So I'll take this session, I'll drag it, drop it over into the folder. This one already has it. So that way you're keeping everything condensed. Drag it, drop it. But for this one, I'm not going to do that. So next thing I like to do is go into File, Export Audio and Video. Then you're going to want to do one master. So some people kind of get caught up with this master. I like to just click this bar right up here. This is my loop. I'll give it a little bit of hang time, even though it already fades out. I like to give it like just a bar, just a little extra. Click back, make sure it's highlighted. Now when you go into your export audio, it's going to cut right where it should cut. Renders loop. Let's see. So I'll do the first one as a master, and then, you know, it's on your preference if you want an AIF file. I like to keep everything wave and then convert it to an MP3 later. So I'm gonna hit export, go back to my desktop, Love These Hoes. And now I just do another folder, and this one I do my wave in MP3, and then I'll click into this, and then next to it, your title, just hit it as a wave. That way when you're doing something later on, and maybe you're uploading it to the internet to ship off to somebody or whatever, you can just figure out whether or not you want to use the WAV version or the MP3 version. WAV usually has better quality, but the downfall is it's usually 60 megabytes and up versus an MP3 is condensed. So it's totally on your preference. So as this is exporting super fast, I'm just kind of sit back. I'll probably use like some movie magic here and render it quick. Voila, everything is done. So that's just the first thing that I like to do. So now I have my MP3 folder. Next thing that I like to do, export audio video. Now what you're going to do is you're going to do individual tracks. Now notice it just says your plugins names. It's going to show you everything that's here on this. It's not actually going to tell you here. So if you want, you can go in and rename, pads, rename synth lead, and so forth. However you want to do it. To me, it's not really a big deal. The idea for me is just to make sure I have everything just in case, my computer crashes and it's a huge pain in the ass. So I'm gonna click on this, make sure everything's highlighted. I'm gonna go back to individual tracks. Now, individual tracks, again, it's gonna have everything through, but if you look at it, this time it says pads, synth lead, and then back to Nexus. So you can name that however you want. That way later on, you can figure it out. I like to go back. I'm not gonna put it into my WAV and MP3 folder. I'm gonna make a new one. And I just call them tracks. I'm gonna double click into that folder. I'm gonna take this WAV off because it's gonna give you a master. It's gonna give you everything that's already tracked out. So I'm just gonna hit save. Now it's gonna export everything individually. So I'm gonna work some movie magic here and speed up the process for you guys. Okay, and everything's done. Now, if you go into your folder, you have your WAV, MP3 folder, you have your tracked out folder. It kind of depends on what you want to do. I sometimes just sort by, type, and then usually I get rid of these because if I'm tracking them out, they're probably going into another DAW, or I'm going to sell this instrumental as an exclusive. Last thing that I like to do is do a notepad, go into live, find my BPM, and then I just type 120 BPM. And then I'll save, just put it onto the desktop. And then I'll just name it info. It's good if, say, you have certain notes or something. I usually just put it into this folder with this. Now for the WAV, I just use Magic's, Music Maker Premium. If you have it, it's decent for just using to convert it into MP3. If you have something else that you like to use something else. So, and then I just drag the waves, into the Magics, convert it to MP3, then I'll put it as an MP3 in here. That way everything's organized. Now, one thing to note on your tracks, now everything is exported out, but it went ahead and normalized everything, and normalized just pretty much means it brought it back to its initial volume. If you go into your tracks, you notice how every track is, the decibels are up or they're down depending on how they were tracked out. It's going to bring everything back to its original sound. So if you take it to another DAW, you might have to mix it back down. I haven't yet figured out a way to export it and keep it at its initial volume. So when I do, I will load that tutorial up. All right, and that's everything. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. I have plenty more tutorials coming up, free preset packs coming out. Stay tuned.